Hello guys, Sebastian here. First off, man, what a list. Finally, the overload of the format has fallen and made way for new decks, right? Well, not quite. While some decks definitely got weaker, they're not out of the format. In this video, I will first go over the changes and then give an overview of playable decks, example lists, and their combos. This might get rather long, so timestamps are in the video description. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I'll speedrun every change in 3 minutes. Ibli is a floodgate and enabled BS with Stardust. Big shoutouts to Giorgio for banning Stimmy's deck. Superconductor Tyranno had an FTK. You won't be missed. Disturbance strategy was hand looping withdrawal in not just one deck. Mindware is here because Konami didn't want people to start using this for FTKs. Transmigration, 7 Tachyon and Dragluxion is the trinity of degeneracy, only used for evil, so it belongs here. Dogma was limited because there was a burn FTK with Destiny Hero using 2 Dogmas. Dominance and Floodgates are here so you don't stack the Floodgates with Dominance anymore. Unfortunately, the hero can still draw their entire deck, but if they don't use Dominance and play Floodgates instead, they have no follow-up. Necro Valley was a hit against rank 8 engine decks and ABC. Thank you Konami for cleaning this up. If you still want to search Necro Valley, you now have to run Gravekeeper's Throne or more Commandants, which makes your engine weaker. Very good hit. Gustav Max and the Raid Raptors were limited, so no more burn FTKs involving those 3 and Summoner Monk come into existence. Mercura was a preemptive hit, so people don't just switch to Merrick to search for the newly limited Floodgates. Nice foresight, respect. For Light Force Sword and the point of the Red Lotus, I have no idea what the issue was. Let me know in the comments if you know. I guess they wanted to prevent hand trips after you set up a strong turn 1 board? Heavy Slump was limited, so you can't hand loop with this. Because if it wasn't, you could get your opponent to 8 cards by reviving Drawhand and Destiny Hero Defender with Dominance, bringing him to exactly 8 cards in standby phase. It's more gimmicky because any quick play could prevent it, but still unfun if it resolves. Mirror Force could as well be unlimited, but nice for some auto-duel decks. Enemy Controller is an interesting one. It's a really old card, but still very powerful. Just not really against the negate boards or D-Hero. Nearly the whole limit 3 section of this Banlist is just there to hit Therion without killing the deck. Also, nice that Roll got added, because now Destiny Hero can't play 3 anymore and it competes with Nib for a hand trap slot. They probably did this to slap limit 3s onto combo decks to prevent them from setting up boards backed by Droll. B prevents ABC from running Droll. Schism is not a real Shadol hit, because if you weren't doing it already, you can just play Emergency Teleport now to replace the missing copy of Wendy. It just hurts your grind game minimally. Star Seraph Helmet Andes rejoice. Your time has come to play 2 tournaments with Scepter before you realize it is still bad. Needle Sealing Unlimited is a welcome change, just probably a bit too late to be really relevant. But if Lava Golem and Sphere Mod sees lots of play, this might catch people off guard and steal some games by clearing boards that didn't get to their negates yet. Archosaur is irrelevant. Sanctified Dark Lord is irrelevant. Stardust is now synchro-locked on the turn they use their skill, so no more Equimax OTKs or searching level 2 monsters from deck with Herald. The Libromancer skill buff is irrelevant. The Valence skill buff is irrelevant. The Shark skill buff is nice, maybe it can do something in the right hands. Okay, 3 minutes are over, everything is covered. Overall, I'm really satisfied with this list. It missed some things like Drawhand in Destiny Hero or just preventing you from drawing cards turn 1 with the skill. The rest is basically covered. And no, I don't think Lava Golem or Sphere Mod should be it. People should just adapt to them and don't vomit all of their resources onto the board without holding follow-up. Did I miss something? Do you have different opinions on some changes? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And now for the most important part of the video. The format going forward. Keep in mind this is purely based on me talking to top players and my own opinions. Okay, so let's have a look at my tier list. In tier 1 we only have D-Hero for now, but I think once the format settles that could change. Tier 2 features Therion and Traptrix. And in tier 3 we can find ABC, Branded and finally, welcome back to the format, Beetrooper. In addition, there are 2 decks that should be explored a bit further because they will have a good position and therefore high potential in this format. Those are Drytron and Dragonmaid. So let's start from the bottom. Dragonmaid didn't lose anything on this list, since they couldn't play the Tachyon cards. What held them back previously was the inability to go second well into high negate count boards and a weakness to Necro Valley. Now that both are dealt with, this deck can have a chance to outgrind opponents with their highly advantage-oriented engine. It's also not that bad into Lava Golem, because the combos can end on Tidying in Graveyard, allowing you to revive a Tributed Shio, giving you interruptions even after getting Lava Golem twice or getting hit by a Sphere Mode. The deck also has a very pleasant Traptrix matchup because their board is quite sticky and therefore hard to hold for Traptrix. They already have a second place finish under their belt in the first tournament after the Banlist was announced, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. So this time I'm going over the one-card combo. Just imagine we have only Chamber Dragonmaid and hand traps. So we reveal the Chamber Dragonmaid, get the second Dragonmaid into graveyard, search for Hospitality. Hospitality revives and the wind pawn dumps. That's so we can go into the fusion by banishing from field and graveyard. We get Earth, Earth revives Stark. Now we can go into seals. Now we bounce to get fusion back. And then we can actually fuse. And our play continues on your opponent's turn because she rebounds to fusion. Fusion summons from deck, so we dump Tidying, which gives us follow-up against Lava Golem. We can fuse, and it's our turn. Next is Drytron. The absence of Xanathond and Dweller from current list means that Drytron can basically play uninterrupted. The engine produces enough bodies to just outplasma with the engine going into Underworld Goddess, since all of the effects activate in hand or graveyard. They play well into board breakers because turn 1 they can set up Arclight and Nightingale, which cannot be hit by Droplet because Arclight can just negate it. So even after getting Lava Golemed, you just don't care and OTK on the follow-up. So for Drytron I will be showcasing two different combos, because both combos have different builds. The first one is the Arclight combo with Nightingale, the second one is the Angel 07 combo. Both have their pros and cons. So the Arclight and Nightingale combo is just very safe because you literally cannot die. And the Angel 07 combo is basically what Destiny Hero wishes it could do with Plasma, because Angel 07 negates monster effects everywhere, not only on the field. And because Drytron plays so many fairy monsters, they can just search Landsphere and tribute summon over Angel 07 on their own turn when the opponent couldn't play for their turn. And then you just OTK because you have your name set up. Both combos just require you to have two names, because with two names you pretty much always get to Benton plus Ritual. Without further ado, let's go in. So here we have Fafnir, but we use the Precious Card skill just to see if our combo gets easier, because turn 1 you always want to set up all 4 names. So yeah, now we have access to both Benton and Ritual spell. Now we get our 4 names into rotation. And then just set up. Get as much follow-up as possible. And in this spot we can even keep the Mubeta on field. So one other thing you can do with the Precious Card skill is, if you draw your fairy targets, you can actually shuffle them back into the deck, because from turn 2 onwards you normally don't need to send to the graveyard anymore, because you already have your name set up. So for example, if I went into my turn 3 here, I would use the skill and shuffle back Diviner to deck. This way Benton will still get value if I tribute it. So next up is the Angel 07 combo. Angel 07 basically trades the safety of the Nightingale for a much more powerful endboard piece. Also, because you don't need to run Arclight and Nightingale, you have more space in the extra deck and you can play a lot more aggressive. So this reflects in the deck build too. If you want to get rid of Angel 07, you just use one of your attacks to either tribute it to negate something or Book of Eclipse it and flip it up after you comboed again, or you just tribute it with the Lancia you searched in your combo. So let's get right into it. So we already opened 3 names, but it's basically the same as before. We just want to set up our 4 names and then go into Angel 07. The important part is that we need to keep 2 monsters on the endboard to tribute for Angel 07, so we don't play into Lava Golem. So you will see me just get 4 names, and then, for example, here I activate Ritual and get back Benton, and then I summon Gamma and don't activate the effect, just so we don't play into Lava Golem. This way we have Lancia set up, we have Angel 07, and normally your opponent will just pass here. And then you have all 4 names and can go for game. So for example, here on the follow-up turn, I drew Book of Eclipse off skill. Otherwise, I could have just tribute summoned Lancia. Here I just showcase something cool that this list can do. You can basically ritual summon an infinite amount of times as long as you have material. Because Edarton, not once per turn, gives you back your ritual spell to hand. So you can basically use it to use your material to link climb. And for the Nightingale version that's a bit risky, but here it's no issue at all. So you see I did my combo and I can now flip back the Angel 07. In tier 3 we have Branded. Instead of using the Despia skill, the deck now uses Precious Cards of the Dark to draw into board breakers. They also got recent support with Photon Jumper being their new light target and Searching for Galaxy Journey, allowing you to recycle banished monsters. The other card they recently got was Chaos, the Star Source Dragon. They can summon it on their own turn as a board breaker or use Branded in red for Lubellion to recycle cards and bring it out on the opponent's turn to pop cards. Since that player started off by Branded in red, it doesn't lose to board breakers either. They are also not locked from the skill anymore, so they could play Lava Golem and Sphere mode if they wanted to. I have an older replay showcasing the deck, but Yo, a very strong Japanese player, finished in the top 10 of the recent KC Cup using Branded, so watching his video with replays from the KC Cup might give you better insight. The next deck in tier 3 is ABC. After it gained a lot of momentum in the KC Cup on day 2, none managed to hold onto it because people adapted their attacks and used Lancia. ABC was going for the Arclight board with Necro Valley, which was doable of basically anything, as long as you open 2 Union monsters or one of the 1-card starters. Post-Banlist, Necro Valley had to leave the deck, but you can still go for the Ancient Fairy Dragon line with Arclight, and now have the leftover body actually trigger by going into Fire Prison and a Link 3. Fire Prison in combination with a Link 3 prevents your opponent from attacking and going into Link 1 or Link 2 monsters. If your opponent cannot out Fire Prison, you can do it yourself by either using your ABC Dragon Buster, in case it survived, or using skill 2 to set Field Spell over it. You can also go for a list with multiple Union controllers and Magical Mallet to draw into Floodgates, or do your best Utopia cosplay and end on Leo Ray with Pegasus, Infinity and ABC Dragon Buster. And last but not least, ABC can also FTK again, this time with our favorite FTK enabler, Atlantis. Because the FTK is really long, I will just summarize it instead. So your first step is to get all your Union monsters out of the deck with B and Union controller as well as your spell cards, building Atlantis along the way to half your opponent's life points. Your second step is to get 4 monsters onto the field and then draw into Thundering Crash with Tsukuyomi. Thundering Crash is a spell card that destroys all your monsters and deals 300 damage for each monster destroyed. So you want to end on 4 monsters and deal 1200 damage with it. For your last step, you banish X, Y, and Z from your graveyard to summon the cannon from your extra deck, then use its effect to summon the banished X, Y, and Z. This way your second Thundering Crash deals 900 damage, putting your opponent's life points to 0. So the ABC combo I will showcase is the one that searches for the field spell. It basically works pretty much the same as before, but now instead of just banishing the last piece for the ABC Dragon Buster from field, you use it for the Link 3 and also get the effect now. And Necro Valley is not there anymore, so it's Fire Prison now. What Fire Prison does is, in the mirror match against Beetrooper and against Destiny Hero, it cuts them off from link summoning, and it also cuts them off from attacking. So for those matchups, it's really useful. With that said, let's get into it. So we open B, so we just use our combo with B. Attach a second B from deck. Don't summon, so we save some space on the board. Get our searches in. Get Y. We already have tuning gears, so we get another Y, because it doesn't matter. Now we summon the Y, go into Union controller, we search for the field spell because basically we treat our hand as non-existent. Now we summon the tuning gear, attach the Z from deck, go into Fairy Dragon, summon Z from hand, Z gets back Y, Y gets back B, we search for Fire Prison, we get another search with B, we get a search with the rank 4, eventually, yeah. And now this is the new Link 3 we are playing, it is Steel Star Regulator. Its effect is not that relevant, but I guess it's the best light rank 3. It's basically only there to lock the opponent out of Link summoning with Fire Prison. Now we normal summon our Heavy Mech, go into Arclight, and now we summon our fusions and place Fire Prison on the board. And we already drew Union Hanger, so we can just set a trap from deck. Otherwise, if you ran low on cards in hand, or you think ABC Dragonbuster will be outed, and you don't think you can out Fire Prison, you can just keep your skill 2 and out Fire Prison with skill 2. The last deck in this section is a deck I really enjoyed in the past, but it flat out had no chance in the previous format because everybody was turboing out floodgates while this deck struggles with spell trap removal. Beetrooper. Its turn 1 is still really strong. Lava Golem and Sphere Mod can hurt, but don't end you because you also have a counter trap in combination with Sting Lancer, most of the time 6000 life points and a ton of follow-up. Thanks to its searchable Kaiju, Beetrooper doesn't lose to any single monster and can afford to run hand traps because of that. They are also not locked out of Sphere mode, as that is a normal summon and you don't have anything competing for the limit 3 slot, making Beetrooper also able to play Droll or Book of Eclipse, both strong in their own right. Playing this deck on a high level will require mastery though, so you need to really sit down and learn the deck. If you do, you will have a very fun to play and flexible deck that can keep up with the other decks of this format. I made a guide for the deck, so if you're interested, feel free to check it out. Freshly dropped out of tier 1, there's Therion. It got hit so much that the deck is not playable the way it was before, because the deck basically turboed through every unfair engine that was in the game, resulting in multiple different FTKs and floodgates. Even though the hits were massive, the deck was so broken that it is still fine, because previously they were not even playing more than one Disc Colosseum most of the time, while they can now just increase the amount. And it's not like there are no other viable rank 8 engines. Just hours after the list drop, Therion won its first tournament again, now featuring Horus cards. The deck's turn 1 was severely weakened, but they can still set up Photon Lord and search for Photon Jumper, preventing them from being OTK'd and solving their comparably weak turn 1. They can play in two ways. They either set up a respectable turn 1 with Dragluxion, or they forgo Dragluxion completely and just bank on Photon Lord for Jumper, and breaking the board on the follow-up turn. Both versions are a lot fairer than the previous iterations, but the deck still has the strongest turn 2 in the game. Especially now that most floodgates that stop Therion from playing the game are very hard to use. So first off, I would showcase what the Horus engine with Therion can do without Primal Dragon involved. So this hand is basically perfect. We just do the regular Therion Regulus combo that we did before. But instead of summoning Dragluxion, we will just summon Felgren to get a monster into the graveyard. So let's get right into it. So as before, we send Lily. This way we insulate ourselves from hand traps and can discard the Argos system. So now we discard it with Imseti. We also draw Cross, which is the perfect draw. Alazia discards a random card. We go into Felgrand to get a monster into graveyard. Now King Sarcophagus gets both Horus monsters. The Horus monsters are used to go for Photon Lord. And then Foom summons itself, and Argos system recycles the trap. So this is the board with the maximum amount of interruptions. You still haven't used the second skill, so you still have Very good follow-up in my opinion. And now we have 2 monster negates, 1 omni negate, 1 bounce and a trap, with 2 horror monsters as follow-up in the graveyard. Also, Photon Lord can search for Photon Jumper at the start of the opponent's turn. So yeah, we use the bounce and we search for Photon Jumper. And that's all this deck can do on turn 1. Second is a list with Horus Engine that actually plays the Primal Dragon. The disadvantage is that you have 1 less Regulus, but you have 1 card combos in exchange. So basically every 8 is a 1 card combo in this deck and ends on double Xyz. In case of Lily, it's good to have a second name, because if you have a second name you can also insulate your combo from hand traps by sending Regulus to graveyard. So let's get right into it. So first we show Lily, send Regulus to graveyard. Then Lily equips Regulus and sends from hand. So this way we are safe from hand traps. This Colosseum adds Alazia, and Alazia gets the name from graveyard and then special summons Regulus. At this point we check for every hand trap. So the only hand trap that could really hurt is Nip. But normally Nip is checked for at this point. Now we search for Spiral. We won't use Spiral this turn. Spiral is basically as follow-up for if we OTK with 107. Because with Dragluxion we can also go into Cypher Dragon, and Cypher Dragon can steal the Primal that we gave our opponent. This way we also have Satellite Dragon as set up in the graveyard for 107 next turn. So the opponent is under immense pressure to break this board. Now we get second skill. Can put Regulus in the spell trap zone, so we are a bit more insulated from hand traps. Now we go into Lord. And because we didn't use Argo system yet, we can just grab the Irregular and equip Regulus and Foom to it. So this board has some more interruptions, because Seals is basically 2 interruptions, because Seals can grab Grandtusk Dragon. So Seals is a pop and a bounce. And what Seals can also do, if your opponent doesn't end on face-up cards, is you can bounce your own Disc Colosseum to get more follow-up. So Seals can bounce Disc Colosseum and then special Grandtusk Dragon to pop set cards. That is, for example, good against control decks if you manage to find them somewhere. So you have 2 interruptions from Seal, you have 2 interruptions from Irregular, you have Photon Lord, which searches for Jumper and is also a monster negate. So that's already 5 interruptions. And you have way better follow-up because you actually have a hand. And your graveyard also looks a lot better because you have Ein, you have Lily, and you have, theoretically, you also have this Colosseum. So yeah, here we search for Jumper. And that's basically just the end of the game. Yeah, I did what I said. Seals can bounce your own feed spell. And from there on, it's just finishing the game. The other new tier 2 deck is now Traptrix. Traptrix was seeing some success in the KC Cup, and now that many of their problems were addressed, the deck is back. The only hit to them was another limit 3 to a hand trap they were playing, but that doesn't compare at all to what the other decks lost in comparison. Playing traps makes them not lose to board breakers as hard, and they can easily adapt attacks to the current format. You can either play the Rika rank 4, which helps against Lava Golem and Sphere mode, or go the traditional way and play with your previous standard extra deck. Both work. Especially in tournaments, I expect to see a lot more Traptrix again. What remains to be seen is if the decks can fix their weakness in the grind game or lock out the opponents well enough that it doesn't matter. The Traptrix combo I'm showing now is the one that uses a skill target and one of the names that you use in your combo. It doesn't need to be Pudika, but Pudika is the optimal one because then you can just normal summon double Memelo. So right here we're just setting up the standard double Xyz board, but because we need to get a name in the graveyard early, that's why we need to discard a monster early with skill. So right here we just set a back row, can be any trap you want basically. So here we go for Granite, and afterwards we go for Strenna. And you can basically decide which names you want to have in the graveyard. So right here we have Memelo in graveyard, but if you sequence it differently it could also be Pudika. And the presumably strongest deck of the format going forward is Destiny Hero. They might have lost their hand loop and their burn FDK, but the versions that got furthest in the KC Cup were sometimes not even running those cards. Most of them switched to higher card count builds with more hand traps and then just drew between 4 and up to 7 cards to overwhelm the opponent with card advantage. Nevertheless, they are still very free in what text they can play. They can draw the opponent before the main phase, they can set up Plasma with Magic Deflector and Mask of Restrict of any skill target, or they can just play 30 cards and have a really good grind game. I expect this deck to perform the best in the upcoming days. It could change once the format evolves, but for now it is the best deck and other decks have to adapt their text to Destiny Hero to not auto-lose to it. So for Destiny Hero I will showcase 2 combos. The first one draws 7 cards of any skill target. So this was made with the old list, so ignore the Dogma in hand. We just need a hero to discard for Ferris. Besides that, everything is played by itself. So Ferris gets Increase, Increase gets Bion, Bion dumps Malicious, Bion banishes Ferris to search for Fusion Sub. Cross Crusader brings back the Malicious, he searches for Liquid Soldier, which we need to draw cards later. Then we link off into Wonder Driver, because we need to do this before activating Fusion Destiny, which locks us out of it. Now we go Fusion Destiny, and the heroes we want to draw. And now we Fusion Sub into a hero monster, draw the first 2 cards. Set Fusion Sub again, bring back the materials to go into DPE. And now before stacking our deck, we shuffle it. Now we can draw twice again, once with draw hand and once for fusion substitute. We go to our opponent's turn, this commander comes back and draws 2, then in standby phase DP pops it. Now draw hand comes back, we draw another card and then we draw the opponent in standby phase. The second combo that I will showcase is the last one for this video and the most problematic one, because Destiny Hero can still draw their entire deck. So in this example list you can see you have room for 5 decks, so you can basically play whatever you want with it and FTK or turn skip. In this case I decided for Mask of Restrict and Magic Deflector. It's a 0.5 card combo, you just need a skill target. So we start off the normal way like we did in the other combos, so Ferris into Increase, into Bion, dump Malicious, go Cross Crusader, search for Liquid Soldier, but in this case we have it, so we just search for anything else that we can search, like Follow Up. Malicious summons itself, we go into Wonder Driver, so we are not locked out yet, we summon another Malicious. This time we search Plasma early, we just want to reduce our deck to 5 cards. Now that we did so, we can stack the deck, go Fusion Sub, draw 2 of the stacked cards, set back the Fusion Sub, now Denier, stacks Malicious on top, and now we bring the Malicious back out, because we want to draw the entire deck. Now we go into DP, draw another card, bring back draw hand, draw another card, and the last card will be drawn in draw phase by draw hand. As you can see, we drew our entire deck, and because Plasma is on the board, we also don't draw in draw phase, so we don't deck out. Overall, I'm really looking forward to the upcoming format and will also participate in tournaments again. This Sunday I will play the Gears of War League Finals with Cult Punk in a new format if you want to see more gameplay. I'd love to hear about your impressions of the upcoming format and what decks you want to play. With that said, see you guys next time.